If you're really passionate about something, you want to do the work. I don't feel like I'm working when I do stuff because I love it so much. Even though you're one person, you're acting as a whole company. And other people have, other people running all these different bits. They have people doing the social media, have people doing accounting, have people doing the marketing, people doing the physical work, but we're doing everything as one person. I don't think it's necessary for everybody to be working in something that they love doing. I still think it's really okay to have a job that you're content with, and then your passion is something that you do on the side as a hobby. I think that's the beauty of yoga, in my opinion anyway, is for everyone. Everybody can find a specific part of yoga that they resonate with.
Hello, Lucy, and welcome to the Open Up podcast. It's lovely to have you in the house.
Oh, thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Also extra special because it's your first podcast.
I know. I'm really excited, but also a little bit nervous at the same time.
No, you just take a chill. We're going to have a beautiful conversation. It's about you, and you know you the best, so it can't go wrong, okay?
It's true. Very true.
And I also feel that because you've got such a lovely, beautiful, wonderful community, I hope this is going to give them insight into you and a little bit more about you. And I know I say this to you a lot. Every time I see you, I'm like, oh, Luce, I think you're amazing at what you do. And I really do. And I'm going to get into that in a second. But you are the yoga queen.
Oh.
There are maybe one or two people that I ever do yoga with. I need to caveat that, right? I'm not really a yoga girl.
No,
okay?
I know. Yeah.
You know this, don't you? So when I come to your class or I do a class, Lucy's a really big deal, okay?
Oh, I'm so glad you come.
I mean it. And there's maybe one other person, one other teacher that I go to. So talking to somebody that's a non-yoga lover, I feel like that's a really taboo thing to say to you.
Yeah.
Tell us what made you fall in love with it.
Well, you know what? What's funny is that the first yoga class I ever went to, I really hated it. I was like, this is too slow. I don't like it. I can't do it. Because I come from a gymnastics background, so everything I did is very much fast paced, really hard work, and I was just used to everything being very fast. So as soon as I did the yoga, I was like, this is way too slow. I can't do it. And I was bored in the first class, if I'm completely honest with you. But I just stuck at it, and the more I did it, and the teachers that I found that I really enjoyed and fell in love with those classes. And I was like, oh, okay, I like this. I like that style, and I can actually get into this. And then ended up really enjoying the slowness of it, if that makes sense.
That makes so much sense. And it's nice hearing it from you because obviously I admire you and I'm like, oh my God, you're so good at it. And
I think it's quite common because when I talk to people, sometimes they're like, the first few yoga classes I tried, I couldn't get it, or I just didn't get into it, couldn't enjoy it. But then it's once you do it for a while, it's oh, okay, this is what it is, and I enjoy it now.
I really resonate with that.
Yeah.
And, I'm a fast mover. I'm trying to slow down. I'm actually doing way better on this at the moment.
Yeah.
But, so I do find the slowness of it. And I do understand there's different practices. But the slowness... Well, actually, sometimes I think as well, it's I'm scared of the stillness. I actually went to my other person who teaches yoga, and I went to a class maybe a month ago, and I'm pretty sure I was in tears by the end of it.
Oh,
and
really?
I was like, oh my God, Amira, the lights are up, cover it up, cover it up.
Oh.
I'm all for crying, but not at the end of my yoga class. You know what I mean? So how did you come to love the stillness? What is it about it that enhances or adds to your life?
I think... Well, when I first started trying yoga or going to yoga practice, I was at uni in third year. So I had a lot of anxiety around what I was going to do after uni. Because obviously your whole life up till the end of uni is planned for you. You go to school, you go to secondary school, college or sixth form, then you go to uni, and then it's what next? So I was stressing a lot about that because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know I wanted to be a yoga teacher. I knew I had a background in gymnastics, but then I was studying psychology and sociology, and I was really interested in that. But I didn't know if I wanted to be a therapist. So it was just kind of all these questions what the hell is going to happen next? I was just super anxious about it. And the yoga, in particular, the meditation side of things really helped me in third year. It helped me with my anxiety and stuff like that. And that's where I sort of found it. I fell into it in that year, and I was just okay, this has really benefited me a lot. And because obviously I wanted to be a therapist, my initial thing was that I wanted to help people. That's what I wanted to do with life. But I didn't know if I wanted to go down that route specifically. And then seeing how yoga helped me with my mental health, I was like, oh, okay, I can still help people, but maybe through a slightly different route. And obviously I have a background in, being physically active and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, it works into like both of these ways. Maybe I can go into it. And, I worked at Gymbox for a while on reception. So after university, and I got a corporate job, and I just couldn't do the corporate world.
Let's cut.
Exactly. So I was just like, that year after uni, I was just sort of like trying to figure out what it was I wanted to do. And in the back of my mind, I was like, yeah, could yoga work? Like, do people make a career out of these things? I don't know. Because you're not taught that in school. You're just like, oh, just go get a job, get a 9 to 5. You're not taught how to be self-employed. So I was just like, can I even do this? And then being on reception at Gymbox and seeing yoga teachers come in and out, and like I'd talk to some of them and be like, how did you get here? Like, what are you doing? And then they're like, you have to do your 200 hours to qualify to become a teacher. And I was like, right, I'm gonna do that and see where it goes. And then, I booked a course in Bali. I went over there for a month and then came back and just went for it.
I love this story though for so many reasons, because one thing you picked out that you said that I think is so important is depending on how you've grown up and, what your caregivers do, whether it's your parents or somebody else has brought you up, not all of us know how to be self-employed. And I love that you're like, oh, wait, what? You can do this?
Yeah.
And I always say this, like when I launched the business, I remember one of my friends turning around saying, about time. And I was like, yeah, really? What?
Yeah.
But for me in my head, I'd been in the corporate world for so long, and it was really similar to, you don't get taught how to be self-employed. And I think it is different. Like, do I think some people are innately entrepreneurial? Yes. But then I think there's part of me that does have it now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't think I'd love what I do as much as I do.
Yeah. But I think you can sort of learn it as well. Because if you met me when I was like 18, you'd be like, she's not entrepreneurial. Like, she doesn't know what she wants to do with her life. She's just all over the place. But I think it is something that, like, if you're really passionate about something, you want to do the work. Like, I don't feel like I'm working when I do stuff because I love it so much. And like doing things where I'm like talking about stuff, I get all excited and I'm like, yeah, let's book this, go here, let's do a workshop. And it's just like, you don't feel like it's work, so you do more. Whereas I feel like if you're not really enjoying it that much, it's going to feel like work to have to like do things. So if you are self-employed, you really do. I feel like most self-employed people anyway are just passionate about what they are doing.
Definitely. And I think that goes back to something else you said though, when you were at uni and you were studying something completely different. And we're going to get into your athletic background in a little bit. But I often, see, we can get to that point in life where sometimes, no matter how old you are, you feel a little bit stuck or you're not sure what to do. And I think there's a lot of conversations at the moment around your purpose and doing what you're passionate about. And sometimes I will have conversations with people that are like, I just don't know. And I think even listening to the way your journey evolved, you weren't from a really young age like, this is what I'm doing.
No, yeah.
But look how you followed whatever kind of, please tell me if this is wrong, by the way, I was going to say, whatever brought you joy in that moment. So you were studying something completely different.
Yeah, like I was literally doing psychology. I started off doing marketing for the first year of uni because I literally just went into it and I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And to be honest, the only reason I did marketing was because my older brother did marketing at uni and he was like, it's a really interesting course, go for it. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Like I had no idea what I wanted to do at all. And then it was from doing that marketing course for a year, I realized that I liked like the reasons why people bought stuff or like why people were into things. So I was like, oh, maybe I should go into psychology because I kind of like, behavioral stuff like that. So that's why I went into psychology. But yeah, it's just, I think there's a lot of pressure now on people to like do a job that you're passionate about.
Yes.
Which in some ways is good, but then in some ways it's like I don't think it's necessary for everybody to be working in something that they love doing. I still think it's really okay to have a job that you're content with and then your passion is something that you do on the side as a hobby. Like that's absolutely fine. As long as you're happy with that, then that's okay. You don't have to be doing something that you love. 'Cause sometimes I think as well, when you do something that you love, you're going from working 9 to 5 to now working 24 hours a day. Like it's a big change.
Say that again.
Literally. So it's like, yeah, I think it just really depends on the person. If you're content with what you're doing, you don't have to find this like huge passion as long as you're happy with your job and you're also happy with whatever you're doing on the side.
I think that's so important and people need to hear that. You are right. There is this pressure. And when you were talking, I was actually thinking about it in the reverse. I'm going to come back to what you said. I was thinking about it in the sense that sometimes as well, you fall into it but it's also come through the things that you did that gave you an inkling. So for you did marketing in the first year, and you're like, although marketing wasn't my thing, what you figured out was, I like the reason why.
Yeah.
Okay. And also for me, I didn't know you wanted to be a therapist. And I'm like, all this, listening to you, I'm like, this all makes sense. But it was also the motivation behind, which was, I want to help people.
Yeah.
And that the thing that shifted was how you did that. But it evolved, right? So had you not done marketing, had you not then transitioned to psychology, had you not then perhaps hit that point in third year where you were looking for a different modality of support, it may not have led you.
Yeah. I think about that all the time, that there's so many little like pivotal moments that I'm like, that didn't happen. I don't know where I would be today. Even like working at Gymbox on reception, just seeing and talking to yoga teachers. Like if I was just working in a corporate job at that point and didn't have any contact with yoga teachers, would I have like known that could be a job? And, there's loads of different things that I'm just like, wow, if any tiny little thing changed, I just probably wouldn't be here today. I'd be doing something completely different. Or maybe I would be here today. I don't know. Life works in weird ways.
Yeah, like this is your path. So this is exactly where you're meant to be. But I think that's beautiful to hear, because I think that when we're at a point where we want to transition, or we want to do something new, or like you said, actually, this really rang true for me when you said, if I was in a corporate job, would I have thought that that's what I wanted to do? And whilst we're not going to figure that out, but the beautiful thing is that you were in Gymbox, meaning you could see it. So you could see that, wait, people are doing this for a living. This is actually a thing. Therefore, it's possible. And I talk a lot around, we need to be able to see things to like believe it, or to know that it is possible. And I think every single person I either interview, like I sit on a panel with, that's what it comes down to. They could see it, and then they believed they could. And yes, the universe supports you, and you've got to do the work.
Yeah, because it kind of like reconfirms to you, like, these people are real people, and they have made a career out of this, or like they're doing this thing that I'm really interested in, and it's working for them. And like, it just gives you inspiration. You don't have to copy them exactly and do everything that they've done, but it's just like, it almost gives people that like hope, and it's just like, it's possible. It like opens that little door, and it's like, there is a possibility. If you want to do that, it's there.
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas if you don't see it, or if you don't connect with it in real life, then you're just you put it, you like idolize it a little bit, and you're like, it's this career that I could never have. And it's just like, but why can you never have it? Like you have to meet those people, or like sort of weave your way into that community a little bit to understand that like you can be in there too if you want to.
Oh, that was such a beautiful explanation, because as you're talking, I was thinking about like moments for me of where it's felt either like really far apart, or, like, is it really possible? Is it just in my mind? Like, can I really make this happen? And deep down, I'm like, hell yes, we can. Okay. But it's also about the fact that, most of us will hit those points of doubt. I love when you said, like, go and weave yourself into a community, whatever that community is that's good for you, and expose yourself to it. Like, and I love when you said, let's not copy. It's my like pet hate. I'm like, no, but using it as inspo to say, okay, well, what works for them? What kind of path did they? Great. That's how it works for you. Well, okay, what's my life looking like? What's my next step? And just the flip side of this that you said, and I was like, oh, Lucy, you really made me think. But I love when you said, actually, we don't all have to be working in a job that is our purpose. The thing, I mean, hell yes to the whole 24-hour work day even.
Honestly.
It's because as well, and I laugh and giggle about this, but I always say this, I feel like you're going to agree, or like just feel it, because you're going through it as well. There's no off switch.
No,
So you are permanently on. And that's
literally,
a very unique feeling.
It is. Like if someone slides into my DMs and like, I have this yoga question, can you help me at 11 p.m. at night? I'm like, yeah, sure. Let me just write it all down and get back to you straight away. Like I'm never not a yoga teacher. I'm just always a yoga teacher throughout the day, throughout the night.
So I'm giggling and I'm like, oh my gosh, we have to break this down.
I know.
But I get it, right? And it comes down to as well, because there's things I know, because I know people are going to listen to this and be like, Amira, but you talk about boundaries. And I'm like, yes, I know I do.
Yeah.
And it's that thing though, because I'm going to speak about it actually from my experience.
Yeah.
Then you tell me if like what it is from yours, because I don't want to speak on both of our behalves. But it's like that deep love.
Yeah.
And I describe it for me as like that fire in my stomach, like knowing that someone's like, Mia's like, that helped me.
Yeah.
And I'm always, to this day, I'm like, yeah, did it? And I'm like, oh, amazing. Like,
Such a good feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, like I never want to take that for granted.
Yeah.
I never want to miss that moment ever.
Yeah.
So I really get with you when the DMs are the things that keep me up. Yeah. And I'm like, wait, is every DM replied to? Have I done all my WhatsApps?
I know,
Are my clients all okay?
know.
And I'm like, okay, I can sleep now.
Yeah, literally. I think even we were like emailing really late last night.
Yeah, I was like, and you were like, no, it's fine. And I was like, I'm so sorry, Luce. This is coming into inbox at 11 at night.
It's fine, I'm awake.
Yeah, when I got a response, I was like, okay, great.
Yeah. It's funny though, because I have had conversations with people recently about that and about like finding that boundary and how it is really hard when you are like really passionate about something. It's hard to sort of separate yourself from work.
Yes.
And it's quite, not a dangerous place, but it's just like quite a difficult place to be when your whole sort of persona is your job. And it is, and I've struggled with that before, where I've had moments where I've been like, oh my God, what is Lucy without the yoga? Like, you know, all of these things. And I'm just like, you have little moments where you're thinking about it and you're just like, you know, like what are the other parts of my personality? And sometimes it's hard to, you know, you're so focused on this one aspect that you kind of lose a bit of the other one sometimes. But I'm trying to now, at least, is like try and bring myself back to those other parts, you know, do stuff that I used to love doing when I was younger, or like, you know, doing stuff that's not yoga all the time. Yeah. But like, it's just really important to try and find that balance. It's all about balance. I mean, everything's about balance all the time. But it's really important to try and find that balance. And I just think it's an ongoing journey. It's always going to be like up and down. You're never going to be like, I'm at the perfect place with the perfect balance of work life. But I think it's just keeping an eye on it and realizing when you are being like, you know, too much involved with your job and maybe neglecting some other aspects of your life, and trying to just notice that and be like, okay, let me just, you know, do some other things for a bit and always come back to it. And I always find that when I like move myself away from work, if I go away for like a weekend or anything and I come back, I'm so much more like refreshed, more creative with my flows, with ideas, like everything's flowing better once I've like removed myself from it for a little bit. So I feel like that's sometimes necessary.
You just raised such a beautiful point, because even when you said, oh, I think it's a bit dangerous, maybe it's not, it's just a difficult space. Yeah, like I don't think it's a bad thing we use the word and say like it is a bit dangerous, and it's where I'm going to describe it in my words, like our identity becomes so inherent in what we do. But when you're working and operating in a self-employed environment and it's yours and it's what you deeply love and it's also the thing that helps you or supports you, then you're like, yeah, when you said, what is Lucy without the yoga? It's like, yes, I resonate. Like I hear you. But I love when you're thinking about, okay, well, actually, how do I pull back? And I just really back that like resonates with me even more when you said, yeah, well, actually I take myself out of the environment, I'm away, that's how I detach. I come back and I'm in flow, and I was like, but sometimes, I don't know if you find this, I think over the last couple of years I've really had to, I think I've felt a push and a pull. So if like my DMs aren't replied to, if I haven't replied to every message, if I like, have I done this follow up, but this new person's coming in, like have I got back to these proposals, whatever it is, of like constantly being on. I think I'm slowly transitioning where I'm allowed to say, you can pull back and your business is still going to survive.
Because you have to remember as well, like the type of work that we're both sort of in, even though you're one person, you're acting as a whole company. And like other people have, you know, other people running all these different bits. They have people doing the social media, have people doing accounting, have people doing the marketing, you know, people doing the physical work, but we're doing everything as one person. And so it's hard. Like you have to give yourself the credit, and that, you know, it's a big job to do. And so you do have to take rest. Rest is just as important as everything else.
This is why I wanted you on the podcast. I just knew you were going to give us all your wisdom. Also, I'm going to do a shameless plug and be like, if anyone wants to come and support us and give us any other elements of the business, we're here. You just drop us a DM and let us know, because you know we're going to reply.
Always need help.
I'm so here for it. So when you think about now pulling back and that word balance, sometimes I think I'm a bit cautious to use the word balance, but I like when you said there's no optimum. We're not striving for a goal. We're just going to be aware that in certain chapters and certain peaks of our business, then it's going to be a little bit busier, a little bit more full on. And I know that before we turn the mics on, we're talking about your beautiful retreats, right? And you're like, okay, I think you love them. And it's where like all your love and your joy goes into
Yeah.
it. But I can only imagine the work that also goes in behind that, right?
Yeah, because like running retreats and hosting them is basically like creating a whole nother area of work for myself, a whole nother company. Because I now have to, do all the research, find the right locations, do all the marketing, sell it all to people, and then also organize the whole thing when I'm there, like hiring chefs, like doing all this sort of stuff. And so it is a lot, but it is probably the area that I'm most passionate about in my work, just because although I love teaching classes and I love doing like private sessions and stuff like that, when you're on a space in a retreat and you're there for like a longer amount of time and you get to just like leave everything else behind and just be really present in this moment with these strangers. And it's just like, it's such a beautiful moment to like see everybody come together and talk about things and open up and just be in that space. And I feel like it's quite rare. Like people don't get to you don't get to just go on a yoga retreat every week. And so like when people are there, they're really open to everything. They're like, yeah, I'm here. Like I want to experience it. And it's just such a beautiful space. Like when I did the last one I did was in Morocco, and the people that came to Morocco, if you look at them objectively, they all look so different. Like the ages varied from like low 20s to mid 60s. Like it was literally just like anybody and everybody came to the retreat. And, I was like, as the host, I'm like, are they all going to get on? Are they going to speak? Like, what's going to happen? But like the second that they're there and you're in this space where like what you do for a living doesn't matter, your age doesn't matter, like none of that matters. You're just there to, do some yoga, practice, meditate and journal, and then also just open up. It's just like a really beautiful space to people, and it allows them to open up more. Because sometimes it's easier to just talk to a stranger about your deepest problems. It's easier to open up like that because they have no past judgments on you. They have no expectations of who you are. And in those spaces, because the Morocco one was 5 days, by the end of 5 days, you're literally like a family with everyone, because it's like you've spoken about stuff that you might not have even said to your best friend or your parents, anything like that. So it's like everyone was just so close at the end of it. And it's just such a beautiful like place to be. And that's what I'm like really passionate about, is bringing sort of like a community and creating that community for people. Because especially in like this, this environment or this world that we live in now, it's all very individualistic. Like everybody's out there for themselves. And so it's quite hard to find those community spaces. So, yeah.
I think it's one of the many things I love about you, right? But one of the things I think you do so well. And I chuck a praise at you all the time, but I genuinely mean it with my heart, right? And I know I get super enthusiastic, but it's me, okay? Touching on in terms of like society and where we're at the moment, and that individualistic approach, where's like the real driver as well come from to create this community? Because from the outside, when I look into like your world and I only see a snippet, I honestly think that you have created this beautiful, thriving community. And even listening to you in terms of like where everybody's at the end of this 5-day retreat, little side note, I'm contemplating Italy. I'm just going to slide that in. But also you created that because you facilitate that environment. And I'm a really big believer. I feel like as a yoga teacher, you're going to agree with me. But in terms of energy as well. Yeah. So you set that up. You facilitated that. Like you enabled that to happen. And yeah, of course, there's no guarantees in terms of will people connect or will people even get on and want to listen to each other and talk. But there's something about you that creates that. So looking in, I guess my question is more around how have you got to this space where you're able to have this beautiful connected community?
I think it all just sort of like, it falls into place when you start doing the things that you love and that you're really passionate about. And like the main driver for me wanting to create this space for community was because like being a yoga teacher is lonely. It is lonely because you go in, you teach in a studio, you might see the other yoga teacher on the way out, but like you're never in the same place at the same time. And even practicing yoga can be lonely as well. Like people come into the studio, it's a very individual practice, which I still believe it is, because it's about yourself, about your breath, your body on your mat. So you come in, you do the yoga, and then you leave, and like no one really speaks to anybody. And so I was like, there's all these people that have this similar interest, and all these people that want to meet other people, want to socialize with people with them, but like they don't have the space to do it in. And so I wanted to create that space because it's something that I never had, and I would have loved to have that space when I was just a student and not a teacher. That would have been something that was really, I'd really love to like sort of meet people who liked that sort of stuff as well. Because I didn't have many friends back then at uni who also did yoga. It was just me. But it would have been nice to, create, like, just enter into a community and kind of like meet people that have similar interests to you. And so I feel like that's a good space to be. But yeah, it is just hard to meet people in general. Any community is hard to find at the moment because it's just, everything's online and like, which is also like online is a good space and it has its pros and cons, but there's nothing that beats like in-person connection with another human being, in my opinion.
No, I'm really, really listening to you. I say that like I'm not going to listen to you in a podcast episode, but in a way where, yes, I agree that like online, pros and cons to everything we do. But I think maybe as well because that's been so heightened for like such an extended period of time that now, and it's funny, I guess, because at the moment I feel that I'm delivering way more face-to-face than probably I have been previously.
Yeah.
Or previously like within the business. And you're right, that feeling of like interacting with another human and feeling their energy and really seeing like, oh God, that resonated with them. Or like they worked through that practice and that gave them the release of emotion. Yeah. Very me, isn't it? Right. Release of emotion that they needed. And so I hear that and I think that it is incredible that you can bring people together as well. That's also as well like so incredibly varied. That like what you do, who you are, your colour skin, your age, it's just irrelevant.
I think that's the beauty of yoga, in my opinion anyway, is for everyone. Like everybody can find a specific part of yoga that they resonate with, whether that's like power yoga, doing handstands and stuff like that. It's up to you. Or maybe like it's the part of yoga that's actually more like meditation and things like that, and that's more up your street. It varies so much that I feel like it is for everyone, which is why the way I kind of teach my classes is kind of like a for everyone style. Like I try and make it accessible to everybody because I really believe that it can benefit everybody in different ways. And, it's all about sort of like self-discovery and not just physical self-discovery, but also you discover a lot about yourself when you're on the mat. For example, you said like you cried in a yoga class once. I've cried in a yoga class. Everybody's cried in a yoga class, but like that comes up for a specific reason. And it's just like you leave that class thinking like, oh, why did that happen? Then you start like this train of thought about thinking about yourself and, learning about yourself from that. And that's kind of what I expand on a little bit in my retreats as well. And I think maybe it comes from the fact that I did psychology and I really enjoyed psychology. I'm really into like personal development and self-discovery and that sort of thing. And I think it just goes hand in hand with yoga. Like it's weird to say psychology and yoga go together because they kind of don't seem like they would, but they really do. And like they're both sort of things about learning about yourself and learning about your behaviors. And, there's all those, I can't even think of the quote now, but the one that's like, you have to fill up your own cup before you give to others, like all of those sort of things. And I do believe that, the best, in order to have a good relationship with everybody else, the most important relationship you should have is with yourself.
Amen. I'm like, yes, Luce, yes. I was like, we can just pause there, Yeah. I'm like, amazing. Like, oh, it is like honestly such a privilege to hear you and hear your experience. And I'm such a fan for like the things that people don't think go together. So when you describe psychology and yoga, I think because usually when I end up in a yoga class and we finish it, I am crying. It's not unusual. But you're right to explain that and describe it and say, okay, well, something's come up and something's come up for a reason. And for me, I know that is usually the thing I'm trying to like avoid or suppress. As much as, for the most part of my life, I'm very good at processing emotions. But there will be something if it's a little bit stuck. Or that I'm too busy to want to acknowledge and I'll use it as an excuse. It's probably like more previous version of me. I feel like we're on a transition at the moment. But it's beautiful for you to share that, actually for you, it's the insight into like, okay, well, why? Why is that coming up?
Yeah. But I think that's not only yoga, like you should sort of question why you do things all the time. Like question, like, why did I react like that? Or why did I do this behavior? You don't have to like say it in a condescending way. Like, why did I do this? But just asking yourself and simply, even if you don't have the answer, just asking yourself why is going to open that sort of thought process. And you're going to be like, oh, okay, maybe it's because of this. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's because of this. And like, it just makes you think more about yourself. And even like in my own sort of like self-discovery or personal development journey, I've sort of like learned things about myself that you don't even know until you put it out there objectively, or like until you speak to someone. Like, I'm a really big advocate for therapy. I think everybody should go to therapy. I know it's, it's a privileged thing to say because it is expensive. It's not always cheap, but if you can go to therapy, then I would really highly recommend it. There's this big taboo about therapy, about how, you have to be really depressed or anxious to go. And I just don't think that's the case. Like, we're social creatures. We need to offload things onto someone. And like, I think therapy is the way that humans do it. There's like, animals have different mechanisms that they use when because we all have like a fight and flight thing in our bodies, and so do animals. And like, loads of them have different ways of shaking off that sort of thing that happened to them. I can't remember what animal it is. Was it a possum?
I wasn't sure, so I was waiting for you to tell me. So I was like, tell me which animal.
Yeah, I think it's a possum that basically, when they get scared by something, they basically go really still and act dead.
Okay.
And then as soon as that thing's away, they shake off all of that energy, that like fear energy in their body, and they shake it all off like violently. And then they chill and they just walk off. And it's just like, we as humans need a way to do that. Obviously we don't, there are things like that, the shaking therapy and stuff that do actually work and things like that. But I do think talking about stuff and being able to verbalize it and just putting it out there is really important part of like just growing in general.
You came on the right podcast. Thank you. I mean, like, yes, amen. I really support what you're saying. And I think that when you describe, so I love, yes, let's acknowledge that therapy can be expensive. So yes, if you're in a space to be able to do it, then absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Also acknowledging that not everybody is. Mm-hmm. But the power of talking, and when you say, we're storing all of these things and these feelings, and we've got so many thoughts in our head. One, we don't have to process every single one of them, but the point is that the ones that are dominant, that are overriding us or overwhelming us, do need to be processed.
Yeah.
And doing that all on your own is exhausting.
Yeah, it's hard because you don't have all the answers as well. You don't have the answers. Like, you might say something to someone and they'll give you a completely different insight that you've never thought of before, and you'll be like, oh, okay, I can take that on board. Whereas if you're just, journaling is actually a really good way to get things out as well. I will say that. But I do think when you have feedback on what you're saying, that can also be really beneficial if you're open to hearing it from like a therapist, or even, it doesn't even have to be a therapist, like a good friend, a family member if you're close to them, anything like that. But obviously using someone objective like a therapist, it's easier to say things, because obviously it's hard to talk about yourself. It is really hard. Like I did, the type of therapy that I had was called IFS therapy.
Okay,
I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah.
So I found that to be more beneficial for me, because I find it really hard to talk about myself.
Okay.
Which is obviously, people are like, oh, you must be like so open and talking like this. And I'm like, no, I facilitate that space for other people. When it comes to me, and I'm like, ah. But that's something that I'm really working on, is trying to, open up a bit more and like actually talk about myself. And the IFS therapy, so for people that don't know, you sort of talk about yourself in parts. So you have yourself, and then you have all these different parts of you. But like, when you're talking about a part, you can say, she feels like this, or she does that, or she's protecting that. And for some reason, it's easier for me to say stuff when I'm objectively talking about myself as like a third person. And it's like, it almost makes you look at your feelings as a different, like separate from you. And it can like help you separate them. And then when you see something separately, you're just like, oh, okay, like she's doing that to protect from this, or like she's doing that to, stand up for this. And it just, you just see it objectively, and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And it's also just easier to speak about that kind of stuff. Because as soon as I say I'm like, I start crying.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm like then extra grateful. You're sitting here on the podcast. You're like, no, I do not talk about myself. like, I'm like, are you sure, Luce? Are you sure that
I've come a long way.
I've come so far. But I think as well, it's actually, I was reading an article actually about this modality of therapy the other day, because it was in comparison. So I think we're comparing CBT. So it's so topical that you've brought it up. And I think that when you talk about in terms of IFS, and I'm just thinking in terms of like other tools I use with clients, is like the detachment. And it feels like, perhaps you tell me, because it's your experience, if it's different, that there's an element of like being able to accept when you can describe it as like, oh, well, that's, she did that because she felt this way.
Yeah.
Rather than it feeling perhaps like all consuming.
Yeah.
And then, because I think as well that once you start opening up, it can be the feeling of like, I remember a client saying to me, yeah, I've opened up and now I feel like everything's out of the box. What am I going to do with it all?
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like it's out of control.
Yeah, that's why I kind of liked this style of therapy, because I'm quite a visual person anyway, and being able to kind of like map out your subconscious, it just worked for me. Like, it might not work for everybody, but it made it make sense to me. Because I was like mapping things out. I'm like, oh, okay, that one relates to this one, and like this bit relates to that bit, and it just was all this like, it just made sense, and it was just easier for me to process it like that, because it gives your feelings a sort of reason, if that makes sense. Because you're like, oh, I'm feeling depressed, or I'm feeling lonely, or I'm feeling this, and it's just like when you just feel it, you don't need to give all of your feelings reasons. But I mean, if you need to, or if you're in a space where you're feeling this feeling a lot and you need a reason, you're just like, why am I feeling like this? It helps you find those little reasons. It doesn't necessarily solve those problems for you, but you can map out and understand why you're feeling that way, or what might be making you feel that way. And it kind of it like validates your feelings, because it's just like, right, I'm okay to feel it. I'm allowed to feel this. Because when you just like feel something, you're like, I don't know, if you feel depressed, you're like, should I even be feeling depressed? Because I've got a house, and I've got a good job, and I've got this. And it's like, you kind of are your own worst enemy when you in your own head. But when you like map out things and you're just like, oh, okay, like I'm allowed to feel this. It kind of gives you that, that space to be vulnerable with yourself.
I think that's so important. Like, probably like 2 or 3 things you brought up there, definitely around validation, giving yourself permission to feel, right? Rather than us entering back into the cycle of like, let me beat myself up because I felt this way. And actually just giving it permission to sit. Like, it's not going to consume me. It's not going to take over me. And sometimes I think when there's parts of us, in terms of how you describe it, that we don't like as well. And I think this took me, I also don't really admit this that often, but it took me so long to get to a point where I was really honest with myself. And it's really interesting when you talk around going to therapy as well, if you want that outside like perspective and opinion, and we've all got blind spots, right? And so the most beautiful thing and beautiful way of growing is being able to have that feedback from somebody else. But God damn, it's hard. And it's like, whew, I heard something today I didn't want to hear.
Oh my God. The amount of times I went into those therapy sessions being like, I'm fine today. I'm absolutely fine. I come out bawling. And I'm like, where did that come from?
Right?
It just comes up, and like someone can say one thing that makes you feel a certain way. And then that's the way that you felt when you were younger. And you're just like, oh God, it's all coming out now.
But going back to your point, as well though, that we're walking around with all these stored emotions that we don't process.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I mean. We don't process them enough. We just we're very good, I think, as a society, as pushing things down, moving on. I mean, I'm sure, like, I was probably taught when I was younger, it's just like, oh, get up and get on with it. And it's just like, that's kind of like the thing that that sticks with you. Like, I'll be strong. I will not process anything.
I'm laughing so hard, but I'm laughing because this is a recurring theme. Like, not because I think it's funny, but yes.
Yeah, it is. Like, especially in like London or like in a city as well. You're sort of like, work hard, work fast all the time. There's like no time to sleep is for the weak, all of this sort of stuff.
Oh my gosh, I'm like, it's taken me a whole entire lifetime to like undo those narratives.
Yeah, definitely.
And that, especially when you talk about, just be strong, like, shut up, get on with it. Like, someone's got it harder than you.
Yeah.
And it's this balance between, I always say anything we say when we're talking about like your self-development or how you grow needs context.
Yeah, definitely.
But when we're walking around with those narratives, you're just constantly pushing. Yeah. So is it a surprise that at some point that emotion needs to be released? All I've got in my head is the picture of the possum. Because it's so...
Everyone just walk around shaking.
It's like shake, shake, shake. I don't need to do that on camera. No. I don't know why I just started doing that. But it is because it's that release of emotion. Yeah. And also going back to like when you said you're able to pinpoint and say, oh, right, that feeling's come from a feeling that I didn't even remember feeling as a kid. Yeah,
because a lot of the things, I can't remember who said it. I think it might have been Gabor Mate. He's like a big psychologist. And like the most impressionable years are the first 7 years of your life. And it's just like, if you think about what you knew when you were 7, you knew nothing when you were 7, but you also you'd learn everything you needed to know by watching people around you, watching relationships, like having experiences, whatever happened in your life, like big events. And it's like you hold that information from 7 years old through the rest of your life. And then you spend the rest of your life trying to unlearn these things, basically. And it's just like, it's hard work. But self-work is hard work. It's not an easy thing to like look inward and try and figure out things in yourself. It's very difficult, which is why I kind of think that you have to be strong to do it. So it's weird because it's like that kind of parallel thing where it's like, oh no, but you know, talking about your feelings is weak. But it's actually really hard. And so it's actually really strong to be able to be vulnerable and to be able to open up and sort of changing that narrative a little bit, which I think is happening a bit in society now. Like slowly people are starting to realize that like opening up is not weak. It's actually like really good for you and all your relationships and like society. But yeah, I think we're slowly getting there. We still have a lot of we have a big way to go, but we're getting there.
Yeah, and it's the risk as well of being vulnerable and when you are open or you share something and it's like, do I want the possible repercussion of this?
I mean, you got to be careful with who you open up to as well. But because, you know, some people are, if you can't meet people if they haven't met themselves at that same level.
Can you please say that again for us? I'm like, no, one more time, Lucy, please.
You can't meet people at the same level as yourself if they haven't met themselves at that level.
Yeah,
because it's just so like true. They're not going to be if they haven't met themselves there, they're not going to be able to meet you there and understand what you're feeling, because you'll be on two different levels and then you're not going to get the response that you want. And sometimes it happens where, you know, you open up to someone, they don't give you the response you want, and you're like, right, well, I'm not going to open up to anybody else ever again. And that's
Shut
it.
Down.
Yeah. And like, that is something that happens to a lot of people. Because, you know, I still think it's very niche. Like, obviously, because I'm in the yoga world, I'm in the wellness world, I'm like, oh, everybody's opening up, it's great. But outside of the yoga bubble and the wellness bubble, it is still quite a taboo thing. And it's just like, oh, what do you mean talking about feelings and things like this? So I think it is, you know, we've got a long way to go, but we're getting there eventually.
I think it's lovely when you describe it in terms of like in the yoga bubble. Yeah. You're like, yeah, this is what we all do. Yeah. But outside of it, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
I guess in terms of your practice, because I feel that you've been in your space for a while, how does it impact like your day-to-day life in a positive way? Like if you didn't have yoga in your life, what would life look like?
I don't even know what life would look like.
So let's do it from the positive, the reverse of it, in terms of like, how does it infiltrate into your day-to-day and who you are?
I mean, it's definitely made me a less anxious person and a calmer person. And I think through sort of going through my own yoga practice, I started off with it being like, the main reason I wanted to do yoga is because I came from gymnastics, stopped gymnastics and started to lose my flexibility. So I was like, right, I need to just stretch. And that was the only reason I went into yoga, was because I was like, right, I need to stay flexible. And then obviously there's such a different side to yoga as well, which is the whole sort of like spiritual side and just going deeper into yourself and your feelings. And that side was what I was not expecting at all. But it obviously really benefited me in a lot of ways. And so now, because I've gone through it in that way, like yoga has impacted my mental health a lot. I can tell when I haven't done yoga for a while, because I'll be more sort of like stressed or like, you know, you feel a certain way and you're like, I need to go to a yoga class. But there's sort of those sort of things. But also meditation has impacted me in more of a daily sense than yoga. Okay. Because although I'd love to practice yoga every single day, it's not realistic to say that I do that, because I don't. And, you know, I think a lot of people have this idea that yoga teachers just wake up in the morning, spend like 5 hours doing yoga and, you know, maybe some of them do. And if they do, that's great. I would love to do that. But I realistically don't. I have my days are very busy and I could wake up earlier to do yoga, but I am not a morning person. And so for me, it's more about the meditation. And that's something I do daily. It's like my non-negotiable thing is I will wake up and I will meditate, whether it's like 5 minutes or 20 minutes. The time doesn't really make a difference. As long as I've done it, then that's like the main thing that kind of sets me up for the rest of my day.
That feels really good as well, because you've released the time expectation.
Yeah.
And I think as well, if my clients are trying to implement a new ritual and then it doesn't quite go right, or they feel like they cut their time short, they can go back into the cycle of beating themselves up. Yeah. But actually you saying, for me, it's about, have I done it or have I not? Yeah. That's my non-negotiable. So it's not even have I not done it. It's that this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm starting my day. And this is what essentially grounds me. Is that
Yeah,
fair?
yeah. And it's the same with yoga as well. Like I did go through a phase where I was trying to do yoga every single day because I did it a lot during lockdown because obviously I had loads of time to do yoga. I was doing like hour classes in the morning, hours, and like I was just doing loads of yoga. And then obviously when life kicks back in and you don't have enough time anymore, I'd sort of be like, I'd look at my watch and be like, oh, I've only got 20 minutes, can't do a yoga class. And then it like got to the point where I was like, why can't I just do a 20-minute? Like, why do I have to do an hour all the time? Like I can just do 20 minutes or I can just do 10 minutes. Like I could just get on the mat, do a few poses, and that would still, like, it still benefits you and it still gives you that feeling, that sense of achievement that you've done something that day as well. It doesn't, like, the time doesn't matter.
I love that. I honestly think there's so much power in releasing that expectation, especially when we get into like, I've got to do this and I've got to do it for so long. And if I haven't, then oh my God, my day is not going to go well. So I always talk about there being things that ground us. And especially when I feel like we've talked a lot in a really positive way around emotions and being able to ground us. So from a yoga teacher's perspective, just explain to us, like, what does grounding ourselves actually mean?
I think it just means feeling stable or feeling comfortable in yourself. And sort of like, it's kind of like your base. And I feel like you always want to sort of come back to your base. And so like things will happen because life obviously fluctuates. It's never going to be smooth sailing. Like there's always going to be things that happen, and maybe they're good things, maybe they're bad things. It will happen. Yeah. And so if you are really strong in your base, that base space that you come back to, then like these events will happen to you. And yeah, you might feel emotional about them because, you know, you're valid to feel emotional about that kind of stuff. And life might throw you off course completely sometimes, and it happens. But if you know that you can come back to yourself and yourself is here and it's this like strong figure that's just like grounded and you're here, and, you know, then you can kind of tackle any of these things that life throws at you because you're like, whether it's good, I can come back to this point. Whether it's bad, I can come back to this point, which actually reminds me of a tattoo that I have, which says, "This too shall pass." And it's just like the main like quote about this tattoo is like saying that, like, you know, good things happen, bad things happen, but nothing is permanent. Everything's impermanent. And it's funny because I got it when I was 18 and I was just like being rebellious and a bit drunk. And I was just like, I really want a tattoo. And I saw this quote and I was like, I really like that quote, but I did not understand what it meant at all. I was just like, I just like it. So I got it. Had no idea what it meant. And I was just like, I was young. And then after like the years, as I started learning about it, I was like, oh my God, I really like this quote. I'm glad I got it.
I'm sorry, can we thank 18-year-old Lucy? How the hell did you make such a good tattoo decision?
I know, literally, I was like, oh, wow, that's great. Because I think my parents were like, no, you can't get a tattoo. And I really wanted one. And I knew I wanted writing. I was just like, yeah, that's the one. So I think something in the universe told me to pick that, and they're like, you're going to learn about this quote. Yeah,
I was so sorry. I was like, that's way too aligned for that to be like an accident at all.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, that is genuinely like the quote that I always come back to. And I think it's so important because it's just like, because it says that even if something's going really well in your life, it doesn't mean to think like, oh, this isn't going to last forever. That's horrible. It just means to think like, you know, it's not going to be there forever. So enjoy it, make the most out of it, be grateful for it, because it won't be there forever. And it's the same as something's bad. If bad is happening, you're just like, it's not going to be there forever. Like, feel the feelings. It won't be there forever. It'll keep going up and down.
Yes. And I'm smiling as well because one of my previous guests also talked about this quote as well.
Oh, really?
Yes, so very aligned. So talking about as well, like, this too shall pass, and not in terms of necessarily emotions, but your background was a gymnast, but not just any old gymnast, by the way. Can we just slide that in? So give us a little bit insight in terms of like what it was like training and competing at national level.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And representing GB. So, you know, just casually slip it in. And I know you talked about transitioning in terms of out of gymnastics and into yoga, and the goal was really, I just want to stay flexible, so I'm going to stretch. Yeah. But like, what was life like as a gymnast?
I loved it. Like, it was literally it was my main thing that I enjoyed when I was a kid growing up. Like, I did gymnastics from the age of 4 till 18. Like, yeah, when did you go to uni? 18.
Yeah.
So yeah, 4 to 18. I was like, oh. I did gymnastics, and I started off doing artistic gymnastics, which is like the one that you see like on the beam, all the apparatus stuff. But I didn't I enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy competing in that because you had to compete alone. And I'm not like a very competitive person, and I didn't like being the center of attention. Okay. And so I actually ended up doing acrobatic gymnastics. So we compete as a team.
Oh, nice.
And it's more sort of like we do it's all based on the floor. Okay. So you do floor stuff, you do tumbling, you do lifts, which is like where you're standing on top of someone. And that was what like my main focus was competing with that team. And we sort of traveled around Europe to compete in different sort of world competitions, which was so fun when you're a kid. Like it's just like literally they're the best trips ever. They like made my childhood. But I'm also really glad I just had that space and those people around that time. Like, because obviously at school I had friends, but I wasn't as close to my school friends as I was with my gymnastics friends. Like my gymnastics friends were like, they were like my best friends. And we were such a like tight little group that I was just like, and when you've all got something in common as well, and it's just like, they were just the best times. And I was really close with some of them. And you know, the training was hard. We had to train 3 times a week for like 3 hours each time after school. So we had to like kind of weave it in and out of everything. But I think the training taught me, like, I'm really grateful for it because it taught me a lot of discipline.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if you, like, you get taught a lot of life lessons when you're doing gymnastics. Like, you're only as strong as the weakest team member and all that sort of stuff. And it's just like, if you fall, it's okay. You have to keep going, just get up and try again. Like, the amount of times I fell on things and it was just like, try again, do it again, try again, don't give up. And like, those things I think really impacted me in the sense that like now when I go into something, even if it fails, I'm like, try again, just try again, just keep trying. Nice. Like it will work out, whether it works out in the way I want it to or a different way, it will work out. And so it's just like, you just have to keep going with that mindset. And I really think gymnastics taught me that mindset.
I love that. And it feels so important in terms of how you've pivoted and what your life and business looks like now as well. And especially because, I mean, try again, especially with business.
Yeah.
Okay, usually, I mean, pretty lucky if something works the first time round.
Yeah, exactly.
But the whole goal is, try it. If it doesn't work, find a different way of doing it. But sometimes I think, definitely for me, I don't think I learned that until like I got into like my early 20s for sure. So having that mindset and having it from such a young age as well.
Yeah.
What essentially ended you doing gymnastics at like a national level?
It was literally because I went to university and I went to university in Nottingham and they train in London. And I was like, I can't do a degree and come down to London 3 times a week and train and compete. So that was literally the main reason I stopped doing it. I had to make a choice between, you know, getting a degree or continuing doing that. But I always like, you know, recently actually I've gone back to doing adult gymnastics, which is so fun. But because I didn't do it for like, I must be like 7-8 years now. I didn't do it. And I got into yoga and got really into yoga, became a yoga teacher. And I still do like workouts and stuff like that, you know, those kind of things. But I hadn't done gymnastics for ages. And then I saw a friend on Instagram who went to this like open gym in Beckton. And I was like, that looks fun. I wonder if I can still do any other things I used to be able to do. And I just went with him and like, we got there. And it's so weird because like when you're a kid and someone says, oh, try this. I remember just being like, yeah, sure. And I'd just like throw myself, not really think about like, oh, I might get injured or like, I would just try things. It didn't matter if you land on your head, like it was fine. But now as an adult going into anything, I'm like, oh my goodness, like I need to stretch for like an hour, warm up.
The fear comes back. Like, is this going to impact my job?
It's the fear is crazy. But obviously they have like massive foam pits there. So you can still throw yourself into things and not hurt yourself, which is good.
I think well though, noticing how you approach it as a kid and then approach it as an adult speaks volumes as well about so many other things that we approach where that inner child in us for the most part is usually fearless.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Doing things from such a deep place of joy. And I think as an adult, if we can connect back to it, then it's like, oh, we might be onto something here.
It's that we kind of lose that sense of play when you become an adult. Like it's just we're not taught to play. It's like you're taught to go to work, provide, you know, get married, have kids, do whatever you want. Like there's no sort of like
control,
just enjoy.
Delete,
it's all
please.
Control. It's just like, you know, we lose that sense of play, and play is so important for, you know, our mental health, our physical health. It's just like exploring different things. And I think it's really important as an adult to find that sense of play. And that might not be, you know, doing a backflip into a foam pit, but it might be doing something else, like, you know, finding your love for art or painting or like just doing something where you can sort of like creatively express yourself, even if you don't think you're creative. Because I get this a lot with people saying like, oh, I'm not creative, I can't do that kind of stuff. And I'm like, what would happen if you just tried something? Like, it doesn't have to be a masterpiece. You're just doing it because you like doing it rather than doing it because you want it to look a certain way. And I think that like whether you think you're creative or not, I think it's still really important to have that sort of sense of just going out and exploring different aspects of your life.
Yeah, and not for an end result, right?
Yeah, not for a result.
It needs to be good.
Yeah, because that's like what we're taught now is sort of like you go out to do something to then get that end product. It's like no one goes out just to have fun anymore.
Give me those days back.
I know, yeah.
But it's lovely as well hearing you go back to gymnastics now as an adult.
Yeah.
And I think I saw when you went, because I was like glued to your stories and I was like, incredible. And it is that sense of you being able to like do what brought you so much joy as well, and do it in a different phase of your life. And I think as well, the playing and the creativity is so important. And I think that I say this a lot, I'm such a serious person. I'm probably way too focused, right? But bringing that play back's been really important. And even, you know, when you talk about the creativity side of it, this is probably more of a play thing. But like one of my favorite things is to do a bike ride in London. Like I just love it. And it's where I get to I feel like a kid.
Yeah.
I also feel invincible. I don't know why when I'm riding a bike in London, but I do.
That's great. You just feel like you're in your own little movie going around. I love that.
But it is that feeling
that is
of
that
like
sense.
insane joy, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just that sense of like you're going out, you're doing something, there's no end result. You're just doing it because you enjoy it and you love it. And it's not because like it doesn't have to look a certain way. Like you don't have to reach a certain speed on the bike and get to somewhere at a certain time. You're just going because you enjoy it. And that's still that sense of play. So it doesn't have to be something like drawing or art or something that's, you know, deemed creative. It can literally be anything. And as long as you're just doing it because you like doing it, then that's enough.
I love that. And there's so many different ways to do it. So just find a way that works for you and experiment.
Yeah.
You don't have to like box it
Try
in or
different
pigeonhole
things.
it.
Yeah, I know. Because we're not used to like trying different things. And I think even like I have an example that's like a physical thing. But when I went to this gymnastics place, my friend is a dancer. And so their tricks are slightly different to like gymnastics tricks.
Okay.
And even though some of them are very similar, they just like do it a slightly different way. So I was trying to learn it the dancer way. And my body was just like, nope, what are you doing? Because everything I do was just like, no, straight, point your toes. And it's just like, it's crazy how like when you do something, when it's like drilled into you for so many years and then you try something different, you're a complete beginner. Doesn't matter what level you did gymnastics at, you are a complete beginner in doing something else. And I like that. Like it's good to be like, do things that make you feel like you're a complete beginner. Because it's like you then start learning from scratch. And it's like you learn this completely different thing and you're just like, oh, okay, I'm capable of learning all these things. I don't have to stick to like the one thing that I know how to do. And it's the same with yoga as well. Like, cause obviously my body knows yoga now. It's very much like I know what to do here. And I tried, my older brother does like these movement classes, which are like kind of like a mix of different movement modalities. So there's like capoeira, karate, yoga, all mixed into like one.
Beautiful.
But it's moving in such a different way. And the first time I ever did it with him, I was like, yeah, I'm sure I can do this. Like, I can move my body. I was actually like, what the hell? Like, where is my arm going? Like, I'm so confused. And you feel like such a beginner, but it's such a good space to be in. It's just like, oh, okay. And then you learn, you grow, you build from that. So it's just like, oh, okay, I can learn new things and I can do things.
You're so right though, because our brains are wired as well. And then to some degree it's a habit because you know the route, you know how you're going to get there, you know, and then it just at some point will shift into an autopilot, right? Where you don't have to think about it. It's
also safe as well. Like it's like, you know this, you're safe, you know you're not going to mess up and look like an idiot, like you know how to do it. Whereas like if you try something new, you're like, oh God, it might be embarrassing, I might do something wrong or I might fall over. But like those, when that happens to you, like those are moments where like you sort of like understand what's going on and you're just like, oh, okay, this is something that I'm learning. And like, you don't have to be an expert in everything. You can be a beginner and that's okay.
And that's an important reminder, especially when you've honed a craft. And like you said, you're like, you know, my body doesn't have to really think about yoga, or my body knows yoga. That's probably a better way to phrase it. And actually being a beginner is refreshing, and it reminds us as well to get things wrong. It's like, oh, yeah, okay, like nothing bad happened.
Yeah,
I'm still
exactly.
here.
Yeah.
I can get through this.
Yeah, it's like you fell on your face. It's fine. You get back up and you're okay.
Like, try again. That's what I was like. I'm like, try
Yeah.
again. That's going to stay on my head.
It's
and my
that thing
feet.
of being comfortable, like whether that is doing something physical or even like talking to people and expressing feelings and that. There's certain areas where you just feel comfortable. And being comfortable is good. It's nice. It's safe. But growth only happens when you're uncomfortable. And that might be like talking about something you're not comfortable talking about with someone that is like a safe person to talk to about. Or it might be trying something different where you look like an idiot where you try it. That's uncomfortable, but you're going to grow and you're going to learn from that. And like those sort of like uncomfortable moments are very important. It's important to like seek that discomfort instead of just being like, I'm comfortable and I'm uncomfortable.
Yes. I feel like you've given us so much wisdom. Before we kind of get to the end and we wrap up, if anybody is thinking about joining your community, whether it's like online class, in person, retreat, I'm going to get you to give us your retreat details in a second. What can they expect?
From my classes or the community?
Both. So like from you, because I think you've given us such a beautiful insight into you. And I'm like, oh, I'd be part of your community any day and every day. But yeah, for somebody that's sold and wants to kind of get involved.
I think in terms of like community and stuff, I'm really quite big on trying to bring people together, whether that's in lots of little groups everywhere or just like a big group. And currently I'm trying to host some more workshops more regularly. And these will just be like little events around London where we do some yoga. And then we also do a little sort of personal development session, which I've curated and where people can really get to know each other and like just talk to people. And it will just be a short, maybe like 1 or 2 hours out of your day. But the last one I did, it was literally an hour yoga class. And then we did a little personal development session for 15 minutes. And just that 15 minutes of everybody chatting with each other, they were all like, oh, we don't want to leave. Like, where can we go? And I was like, oh, there's a cafe upstairs. So we all went to a cafe and everyone talked for like 4 hours. We were in that cafe for 4 hours and everybody was just like chatting to people, getting to know everybody. And I was like, okay, people want this community and I want to create this community. So I'm going to try and create more workshops where I can bring those people together. And then with my retreats, obviously you create communities on those retreats. And I also do reunion events every year. And they used to just be like for each specific retreat, but I'm still going to do those. But I also want to create like one sort of big event where like whatever retreat you've been on, whether it's like Cornwall or Morocco, you can all come to this space and like meet other people within that community as well. Because I think that's a good idea.
I love that. I was like, I'm coming. I'm not invited, but I'm coming. And can you also give us details for your next upcoming retreat?
Yes. My next one is in Italy, in the south of Italy, in Puglia. It's 5 days and it's from the 5th to the 10th of July. We'll be doing sort of yoga and meditation every morning and evening. I've hired an amazing vegan chef to come out with us as well, so he'll be cooking all the food. I'm very excited for that. We'll also be doing like personal development sessions within the retreat, so people get to know everyone. And then we'll obviously do excursions as well. So we'll probably have a little boat day and then we'll go into the little town called Ostuni, which is not too far away from where we're staying. It's like everything's painted white. It's so beautiful. But yeah, I'm really excited for that. There's still a few spaces left.
I was like, I might come.
Yes, come along. Yeah.
Okay, so 3 questions I ask every single guest before we close off the episode. First one is, and it can be anything you said in the episode already, a quote that you want to leave us with.
It's funny because I knew you were going to ask that, and it was "This too shall pass" is the quote. And when I said it earlier, I was like, but yeah, that is genuinely the quote that like has made the most impact on me. I think maybe because of the way it found itself onto my body, and also because of the way I didn't understand it fully at first. And like even when I was trying to understand it, I was like, what do you mean like good things will pass? That doesn't sound very nice. Like good things, you should enjoy good things. And you know, that quote, it means enjoy those times and just be grateful, because obviously the time we have on this earth is limited. And so you should, you know, don't dwell too much on the bad things and appreciate the good things.
Love that. This so far is the quote of the season.
Is it?
Yes, it's a good one. It's a really good one.
That's so funny.
A practical tip.
A practical tip.
Yeah.
I think it would be to try everything, try lots of different things, Because even if that's in terms of yoga or if it's in terms of something else, even if you go to one yoga class once with one specific teacher and you don't like it, that doesn't mean that you don't like yoga. It means that you don't like that specific class. And so I would suggest trying loads of different teachers and finding which ones resonate with you and which classes you feel resonate with you. And that works with everything in life as well, whether you're, going into yoga or, trying to find something for your business or any sort of area of life you want to go into. Just try a bunch of different stuff. And if you're like me when I was younger and you feel really lost, try everything and just see what happens. Because the only thing that can happen is you try it and you don't like it. And then you move on to the next thing.
There's magic in that. Yes. I always try not to ad-lib at this stage. I'm like, Amira, stop talking. And then last and final question, either a podcast, a book, or some sort of resource that you want to share, you want to recommend, something that's maybe helped you.
A book that I read recently was called Good Vibes, Good Life by Vex King. And I really enjoyed that book. I'm not a very big reader either. I don't know why actually. I really want to be a reader, but I can't sometimes. It makes me fall asleep. As soon as I start reading a book, I'm out in the next 10 seconds.
It's it's calmed you and soothed you.
It calms me so much to the point where I can't read a book, so I have to read them during the day. But this book was really impactful. It had some really great insights in it, and I really enjoyed reading it. It was an easy read as well, so it's not too scientific, but it still drops in some little good, informations and facts in there. But yeah, I really enjoyed reading that book.
Love that. Vex King, check him out, guys.
Yes.
Lucy, the biggest thank you for today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and you put things so beautifully. Your energy is so calm, and I'm like, I needed that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was amazing to chat with you.